Hey, this is Chris, and you're listening to Her Pocketbook podcast. You already know what to do. Grab that glass of wine or that herbal tea, find that cozy place, and take this ride with us through Her Pocketbook. Let me start by saying this. Right now, more than ever, is a need for a woman's touch. History, hell, even evolution has shown the impact on a woman in this world. Yet the bond and relationship that we have among each other as women has been a struggle for over the past couple of decades or so. With the pressures of social media, issues with beauty, loyalty, and respect, we as sisters have lost our true sense of community and protection. On this episode, I'm joined with the ladies of TRT, the Roaring Twenties. These women are embarking on a journey to recreate our space in this world as sisters, girlfriends, and business partners. So it's 2021, and we're right dab in the middle, almost in the middle of Black History Month. But in tonight's case, it'll be Black Herstory Month. And right. I'm pleased to kick off this season with some very special ladies. That's all of you. With all this female energy that we're feeling, that's stirring up in the world, it's just bringing nothing but like positivity and change. We all feel it. We all see it. And I'm just proud to introduce you guys, sister friends, and now new business partners. And I just think that you guys are already, well, we are already putting in the work to fulfill that positivity and bring that change already. So I want to introduce you ladies. First of all, how are you doing this evening?
Amazing.
As we all should. Yeah. I'm just going to dive. Again, I think like we're at a time where women of color, we need a safe space. I've been thinking about this for a very long time. With social media, with TV, with just the history of how women are perceived, I think we're getting in. We have gotten into a place where, you know, we're a tug of war amongst ourselves, us as women, and we don't really, or really haven't had, and I'll say in the past couple of decades, a real place where we could all collaborate. We could all be inspired by each other, be motivated by each other, and not have to worry about ridicule or be discouraged or all these insecurities. And TRT, which Dominique will explain later, I feel like is moving in that direction to be a new movement to create that space. Right. I want to start with Dominique. She's a very good friend of mine, but she'll explain who she is because she can do it so well. Just set the scene for us, set the stage for us. Give us you. Give us what TRT is. Where did it come from? And why? Why do you think right now it is needed?
Oh my God. Okay, thank you, Chris, first of all, thank you very much for having us on your amazing podcast. You know, as someone who has been your friend for a very long time, I'm just so proud of, you know, the initiative that you put forth in this podcast. I think there are a lot of podcasts out there right now, but none of them give me the vibe that I get when I'm listening to you and the way you're able to go in deep and have these in-depth conversations with your guests who all happen to be Black women. And that's where I'm at right now. I don't want to hear from anybody else.
Right.
If you're not a Black woman, you know, someone who has had similar backgrounds as myself, everything you're telling me is coming from your positionality in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, I got my shirt in the mail. If you guys haven't checked out her online platform, she has a store that's also attached to the podcast. And I got that wonderful Her Pocketbook definition shirt. So that came in the mail today. So talk about like synchronicities and timing and all that stuff, right? Yeah. Kind of piggybacking on, you know, what you said, the Roaring Twenties, or TRT, as you know, those of us in the organization like to call it, it's really about, you know, what you said, creating a safe and inclusive space for Black women to really be vulnerable and to, you know, talk about the things that we know, but then also talk about the things that we need to unlearn to be there in a supportive and a collective sisterhood for one another, and then to use that to kind of propel our, futures, to build generational wealth, to create a more sustainable future for ourselves and for, our daughters and our children that are coming after us. So, my name is Dominique Lightsey Joseph, or Dr. Dominique Lightsey Joseph. Your girl does have a doctorate degree, so let me just get into that.
Not leave out the letters.
Right. I, completed my doctorate program in education this past year. So 2020 was, when I completed my doctorate dissertation, all that good stuff. And my dissertation focused on, it was a qualitative study in which I interviewed 16 Black women who were in senior level leadership positions in higher ed administration. And specifically what I wanted to know from a desire-centered perspective, I wanted to know, what were some of the challenges that you faced in getting to your position, your role? I wanted my dissertation to kind of be this roadmap for women who were just starting out into the field to kind of navigate kind of the pitfalls and, all those bombs that just happen to come out of nowhere. How do you navigate that and still get to your destination? And how do you get there faster than had you not known this information? Obviously, there are a lot of things that came up by doing these qualitative interviews with these women, mostly just the external stimuli that made their, transition to senior level leadership difficult. A lot of it had to do with, systemic racism and sexism that is still very pervasive to this day. It's just disguised as something else. So it's slights, it's, microaggressions, it's invalidations, it's invisibility, it's these things. And so from that experience, one of the things that came out of it was like, all of us seem to be longing for a connection to each other. All of these women were concentrated in a university in Southern California, but they had never met one another. They didn't know where each other were. There was just this lack of connection, but yet we were all going through these very real similar experiences. And so part of the Roaring Twenties was kind of developed from that mindset that we need to connect. And Beyonce said it years ago, and she was like, we got to get in formation. This is what I think she was talking about. We've seen what we can do when we connect and we are collectively on the same page. I mean, you can look at Vice President Kamala Harris as an example of that. You can look at a number of other political initiatives that have taken place and how Black women are being brought to the forefront in these conversations as evidence of that. That's what we do. But we do it in a collective shared commitment to these tenets, to this work. The Roaring Twenties, I will also say, I get a lot of questions about and I gotta be honest here, y'all. I cannot stand when someone says, oh, the Roaring Twenties, that's giving me Great Gatsby vibes. No.
Little more color than that. A little more color.
It's beyond color. It's beyond color. When people say the Roaring Twenties gives them Great Gatsby vibes, it's kind of slightly a slap in the face, because the Roaring Twenties was not just about this one book written by this white man about his marriage and, how they had all this excess but no purpose. This is the exact opposite of that. There were a lot of other things going on during that time. We had the emergence of the Black Renaissance and how Black people at that point were able to tap into this creativity and this, love for the arts and for music and for language in ways that we weren't offered before. But then behind the name as well, it's not just about, it's not just about the Roaring Twenties. It's also about the number in itself. There's a practical and an inspirational reason behind the name. Where practical is concerned, there are 21.8 million Black women that live in the U.S. And like I said, we've seen what our collective efforts can do in politics. So what else can those efforts do? What else can these million plus women do? What else can we, if given the opportunity to kind of collectively think about the change we want to see happen, what else can that 20 million do?
And that's a powerful force. 20 million.
Right. That's a lot. And then we're also, in the 21st year of the 21st century, and there's still so much that, we want to accomplish that we refuse to leave for our daughters to do. You get what I'm saying? Like, for example, we're not slated to reach equal pay until like 2130. Black women are not slated to reach an equal pay or equal salary to white men until 2130. So that's right now telling me I'm not going to see it in my lifetime, and my daughter isn't going to see it in her lifetime. I have a problem with that. Why put off what we can advocate for and do today? Like that just doesn't make sense. And then, inspirationally, we know that, like I said, there was the Harlem Renaissance, there was Josephine Baker, there was, all of these things that were happening in the Black community that I think we also need to tap into today. Just an unabashed love of ourselves and just doing it by any means necessary. So I don't know if that answered all your questions.
It did, and plenty more. No, that's been plenty more. You've explained the logistics of it, but I'm just really seeing it as a true movement. Like, it's a movement of women taking over and making it happen for ourselves without a struggle, without it having to be this pain that we had to go through, or this struggle, this anger that had to get us there. No, we're doing it with pride, we're doing it with smiles, we're doing it with true happiness from inside. It's not coming out of a place of desperation. It's coming from a creative space, a space where we're taking the time to truly think about what this is going to be, how it's going to look, how it's going to affect our daughters, like you said, other women, hell, our elders. They've kind of gotten to a place where we're not going to change, but just the pride they would have in seeing what they have paved the way for. TRT, the Roaring Twenties. It comes from a personal place for you. And finding sisters, finding women that in your deepest of heart can implement this vision, can bring about this change, can bring about what you see in your head, what you put down on paper, that's kind of a daunting task, because I can see that you probably, gotten to, okay, so who do I pick? What am I going to do? What if she's going to be mad? And there goes what I was talking about earlier, space to, create, inspire, motivate without that discouragement. Oh no, what's going to happen if I choose this person and don't do, it's going to be this whole thing, all this drama.
Okay. So I'm not going to get emotional because I'm no, but honestly, and this is something I urge all Black women to do, you have to think about yourself as, your piece. And anyone in your life has to add to that piece and not take away from said piece. It really wasn't a daunting task to figure out who could help me bring this vision to light, because I had already done my work in terms of protecting myself and protecting my circle. And so I knew that the people that were in my life, we were kind of on the same wavelengths already. Like, we all have a commitment to Black womanhood, Black sisterhood, Black femininity, Black motherhood. We already had those connections. We've already worked together in some way, shape, or form, whether it be, myself and Chris actually physically worked together at a university. Same for me and Brandy. And then me and Shaquita, we actually met in our grad program. And these relationships that I was able to build with each of you were organic. And I find that when I am able to build a relationship with someone organically, meaning it wasn't even like I had to try, like it just happened. Like the universe just said, okay, this is who you need to
there she goes.
Connect yourself. Right. There's your people. It was a no-brainer. As I was thinking about, the types of positions that I would need very early on in the kind of jump starting of this organization and this movement and this community, I knew I needed someone to handle like strategy. I needed someone to handle like marketing and getting out there, getting street teams and all that stuff together. And I knew I needed someone to handle finance. These are all things that in my head, I was like, this makes sense. These are the three things that you really need to get your organization off the ground. And then as I sat and I just kind of did an audit of the people that I knew, that I trusted, I mean, the three of you were just there. Like, it wasn't even, and then, there are other women in my life too. And honestly, I don't think they felt any kind of ways about, me selecting you three over them. And if they did, honestly, that's their business. That has nothing to do with me. I'm not taking ownership of other people's feelings. But, when it came to you three, it was just a no-brainer. And I'll just go down the list. So we have Brandy Junius, who is our chief strategy officer. And believe it or not, Brandy and I have been talking about doing something related to TRT for at least the past 2 years now. And so I think of her as, she's someone who really can get into my mind and untangle my thoughts in a way that makes sense to the general public. And like then turn those untangled thoughts into action. Okay, so what you're trying to say is this. What you're trying to do is this. And so that, that's Brandy. And then there's Shaquita Humphreys Presley. When I think about my time with Quita has known everybody. Okay? And when I say know everybody, I mean there's genuine, like she has genuine relationships with people. And she's someone who is kind of a thought leader and a leader with passion. And so these people that she genuinely knows and genuinely has relationships with will go above and beyond for her. And I'm one of those people. And so I'm like, okay, there we go. That's marketing and external relations right there. You can't teach that in school. That's just kind of a characteristic of who she is as an individual. And then as far as Christian is concerned, this woman, is a single mom who's raising twin girls, doing it away from family. And I've seen the way that she's been able to hustle. She's been able to turn, $50 into something that, she's been able to stretch it. And that to me says that she has an understanding of money. She has an understanding of finance, how these things you can take something and flip it into something more. And I've seen her do that. So why not provide an opportunity for her to do that at a much larger scale? So yeah, it was pretty much me taking the time to really look at the friends that I have who are all amazing in their own rights and finding some kind of way to carve out a piece of this organization that they can call their own and build in their own right.
Well, first of all, we thank you. Seriously, thank you for the opportunity, for even thinking of us in that light. This opportunity, personally, it kind of came right on time. Don mentioned that I have 2 twin daughters. These are 2 pre-teen twin daughters. Let's put that out there.
Let's have a moment of silence for Chris.
But right now, they're in 7th grade, and this year has been crazy with them not being in school. They're not physically in school. It's all this online shit. But seriously, this shit. But this is a critical time for them. So they're 12. They'll be 13 this summer, and imagery is everything right now. Imagery is what is going to form their strengths, what's going to form their insecurities. And right now, I really felt with, they've got TikTok and, these kids are kind of on Instagram a little bit. They got Snapchat, YouTube, whatever the case may be. They're so spongy in the head. They're so, green and just kind of taking everything as it is what it is. Just now is the time that I needed something that was going to push positivity. what was going to drill in their heads pride in being young Black girls, what was going to drill in their heads the beauty of their skin, the beauty of their voice, the beauty of their hair, everything that they are, everything that they do, they have, can do, their voice is special. When you brought this to me, well, we've talked about it before, you told me about this before, but when it came to fruition, and you gave me the call to say, hey, get on, I want you for this, I almost dropped everything because I need this right now. I need this for them. I need them to see. I need something out there that I know is genuine, that I know is solid, that I know is for them. And Brandy and Quia, I don't know, because you're both raising young Black girls as well today in this society. So, would you attain to that? Do you agree with that, or how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. My daughter is 7 right now. But, when I think about the input that I was getting at that age and the stimulus that I was getting at that age, it's completely different, right? Like, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have, some of the things that kids are really into, and they get these ideas and these images of what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be liked or loved. And, as I was going through my self-love journey and trying to understand those things for myself, part of that process was really unpacking all of the untruths that I've been told about myself, and that I told myself in comparing myself to other people. And the first thing I thought about after I was done unpacking all of those things was my daughter, and like, oh shit, these are the same images she's getting. Like, these are the same truths or untruths that she's receiving about herself. And so, it's really important to me, just like you said, Chris, to put in front of her an image of herself being uncompromisingly beautiful and perfect. Like, there's nothing that can take away from the amazing young woman that she's going to be. It doesn't matter what the world says about her or people who look like her. And so to be able to be a part of something like this, and for Dominique to have thought about me and included me and thought about the impact this would have for our daughters, was just really special and meaningful. And it was just really important for me to be involved and to let her see what we can do as Black women and who we can be, and to paint a better picture.
Yeah, I would agree. When Dominique approached me with this idea, I was overjoyed. This is what really gives me life, like creating community and creating spaces, and providing a platform for Black women to connect. It's what really empowers me. So I spent a lot of my time in college and in my professional life doing just that, creating spaces for Black women, whether I'm, the president of the Black Student Union, or creating programs like the one at USC called Sister Circle. This is what doing this type of work and being in community with Black women is what really just, it provides a spark for me. So when she came to me with the idea, I was like, oh yeah. And for my daughter to see that, I think for Sanaya, it's just like, she's used to seeing me in spaces like this and engaging with Black women this way. And I try to be really intentional about that with her, because I grew up seeing relationships amongst Black women that were really unhealthy. And I did not want my daughter to grow up seeing that, or seeing Black women fight and argue. I don't let her watch, reality TV shows. I want her to see, right?
No Love and Hip Hop.
I want her to see Black women doing what we're doing, coming together to create empowering spaces for Black women. So in addition to what, everything you said, Chris, and what you said, what you wanted to create for your daughter, Brandy, I want her to also see that Black women have healthy relationships. In addition to, you're beautiful as a Black woman, you're smart. You can do anything. You have a woman who embodies your image right now as a vice president. My daughter's also Black and Asian, so I always tell her, like, look, there's a Black and Asian lady in the White House.
Yes.
Too, but in addition to all that, she also needs to know that Black women can have really healthy, functioning relationships, and can, we can take over America together. We don't have to do it against each other. We can really build
together.
Yeah,
that 20 million.
So, right.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So what do you see for the members? You know, do you want them to feel that same for themselves? Want them to feel that same for their daughters?
For the members, I mean, we have a lot of things that, the four of us have discussed that we really want to like bring into fruition outside of just, where we are right now. Like, so, 5 years from now, we want to add, other initiatives to the platform that kind of take what we're talking about and actually put it into action. So you can see it happening in your communities. You can see it happening, outside your front door. Like we want to do that at some point. But right now, I think what we want members to do is to know, one, who we are, that we are a space, that this movement is just as much theirs as it is ours, and that they build on that. So right now, we're all about connections. We want as many Black women as possible to know who we are. And then we also want them to engage. We want to hear from them. We want to know, what suggestions do they have? What advice do they have? What do they want to see us do? What do they want to see us build upon? Because we also understand we have our own ideas of what, our community needs and what our community wants, but we also recognize that Black women are not a monolith and we have very different experiences. And so we want to hear from as many Black women as possible. And so part of that is, visiting the Roaring Twenties LLC.com, signing up for membership and engaging. We have so many ways that they can engage with one another. We have a forum, where they can talk about any and everything. We also have these virtual mixers that will be kicking off at the end of this month. And then we also have blogs. So even if, like we write for the blogs and we talk about things that are important to us, but we also want to hear what's important to them. So we're open to submissions from, other Black women who are members of the organization who want to talk about, something that's important to them. We want to foster the connection, foster the understanding of what TRT is, build that street team, figure out what the street team wants to go to the streets about, and then, right, and then we go to the street.
Well, I see just opportunity for bringing together some generational gaps. I think of, moms, aunties, cousins, or daughters, nieces. Time has taken away the connection. I was talking earlier, we're talking about, sisterhood and friendship and the collaborative and collective. But on a deeper note, just women in general passing on game, passing on the to-dos. And I'm talking about simple stuff like, things that were passed down between women, things that were a standard as being a woman. Those have been lost. There's it's hard to pinpoint where that gap started because there's so many. And I think having a platform where women of all ages are able to come together and kind of map out their niche within the foundation, within this platform, can truly be, a blessing to someone else. A 72-year-old could be speaking to a 12-year-old. Speaking to a 18-year-old, fresh out of high school, going straight to college. You never know who will latch on to whom. It's a lot of girls or women, young ladies that don't have moms anymore. And, you never know what someone's looking for when they, become part of these memberships, become part of these organizations. You never know what they're looking for. And I truly think it's an opportunity for bridging those generational.
Right. You bring up a really great point, Chris. There is a lot of, I call it, because, I coined this. Now I got to do a shameless plug. I coined the term tempered herstriology, which is this passing down of feminine ethnic knowledge between Black women from generation to generation.
One more time.
Yes.
It's lost.
Cita sister.
Yes.
Tempered her. That's this this passing down of this like feminine ethnic knowledge from generation to generation as a roadmap of caution. That's something that it seems to be, there are some women who have that lineage isn't broken, and then there are some women who don't. And you're right. I think you're 100% right. The Roaring Twenties can serve as that space to kind of fill in that gap for those who have had those links broken at no fault of their own. It just might be the circumstances in which they were born, or regardless. This can be that place where you have these women from these different generations that can pass the game down. And then likewise, I do also think that there's a lot that, young women can also teach older women about what it's like to really be progressive in a society. We can't wait for someone to help. That has never worked for Black women. It will never work for Black women. And that's not just, a systemic racist issue or a systemic sexist issue. It's also prevalent in our communities. When I think about who I've always been able to rely on, it has been a Black woman. Word is bond. And so if that's how we are acting within ourselves, then if we have those go-getter attitudes, and if I can't depend on him to help me do this, I'm gonna do it myself, then we need to take that out not just within this community, but take that out. Put that in these professional spaces as well. Put that in these spaces outside of the home as well. Because that's how we're going to end up getting our equal pay during this lifetime.
Gotta do it for ourselves.
Gotta do it ourselves.
Well, I would just add to that, like, in functioning in both of those ways, I think TRT also becomes a surrogate healing space, cross directionally, like across generations, right? Where through seeing the progress and development of the younger ladies, it can serve as, a healing mechanism for some of the older women. And as some of the younger women are going through and experiencing some of the different things that they're going through and experiencing, getting that wisdom passed down from the older women can serve as a healing mechanism as well. And so, and I think as we engage more meaningfully in these connections and build out mentorship and relationships through the Roaring Twenties, as we heal ourselves and heal each other, we've said before, Black women heal the world, right? Like we take that and we magnify that and we elevate it. And so creating a space that allows that honest communication and that, that open connection will really help in that way as well.
And so it's important to have this space where we can be vulnerable is what I'm hearing you say, because a lot of times we have to put on this armor just to walk out the front door, and we can't even let that guard down in places where we spend the most time. We can't let the guard down in our professional lives. We can't let it down a lot of times in our relationships, and with our significant others. And so where can we take it off, sit down with a glass of wine and let it all out without fear of judgment, without, the oppression Olympics of someone coming in. Well, I know you're going through that, but think about, what this is. This is what the Roaring Twenties, that TRT community is about. No one here is going to say, well, I know you're dealing with that, but do you know how much is going on outside of your immediate identity? Yeah, we know. We're told that all the time. Every time we bring up something that's a problem for Black women, we're told that, we'll get to that later. We want to focus on, this bigger issue right now. That is not something that you will experience in this community. Everyone's on the same page.
Would you say, do you know what's going on? But it's like, girl, and then.
Right. And on top of that.
But check this out, though.
Right.
I think that's what makes TRT such a unique and, awesome space. I know in education, like we all come from higher ed backgrounds, we talk a lot about creating spaces and safe space and things like that, but we're oftentimes dependent on people in the room to make the space safe when they don't identify the same way we do. And I think that TRT provides that safeness, that safe environment on a platform that we can be sure of. Like, we don't have to really question, like, are they going to create a safe space for me? Like, I know it's a group of allies, and is this space going to be safe? No, it's inherently safe because it's us. Like, we all identify with the same group. We're all Black women, and so we can kind of depend on that. We don't have to, come in with this illusion of a safe space. Like, we can kind of rest in knowing that amongst other Black women, we are safe, and this is a platform that was created by and for Black women. It's not on Instagram. It's not on Zoom. I mean, some of our talks might be on Zoom, but I mean, it's not in these spaces that weren't created by us. So we can be sure of the fact that this is us. This is, for us. Feel safe in coming to talk, express yourself through our blogs and, the forums the way you want to, because who's monitoring the space is Black women, who are the authors of the space, Black women. So we can feel safe in knowing that. So
that is such a good, a great, feature. And something I didn't even think about, Guida. Like, I didn't even think about the fact that, this space is not us tacking onto something that already exists. We literally created it from the ground up. We literally own it from the ground up. We manage it from the ground up. And there's no outside influence on this space. So that wow, that resonated. I didn't even think about that.
I just thought about something. So Marianne Williamson, she's so she has a book. It's called A Woman's Worth, and I'm kind of skimming through it now. But one thing that stood out to me, she was talking about how the concept of witches came about. So in those days, after the women were all done with their duties of the day, they would all congregate together and just talk about, anything. We really don't know what it was, if it was about the day, if they were complaining, if they were just, having girl talk. But to the villages, it looked as if they were conspiring something evil, because why are they in the nighttime always going together and talking about something, and we don't see them until the break of day, when it's time to go back to whatever they do during the day.
So the witching hour.
And so it kind of,
that came from that.
The witching hour. It's nighttime. Hell, it probably was midnight, in the middle of the damn night. We just gonna get together, sit down in the circle, put a little fire in the middle of us, and it looks like we're chanting, but we could be crying.
We could be laughing.
We could be laughing. We're singing a song, making up songs. We are just communing.
Wow.
But because these women were so powerful and together every single night, it had to be something wicked. They had to be conspiring something that was against us, the men, that was against us. So, women, because of their men, started to, fade off a little bit. And those that were left, the image of them were these rotten, old, ugly, and it could have been the ones that, hey, I'm not worried about what I look like. I don't care about him and these kids or whatever the case may be. But they were the last ones standing and just got this bad imagery about them. So this being a space where we can commune, this being a space where we have those midnight witch hours, is refocusing that it's not a witch hour. It's a woman's hour. It's our hour to unwind. It's our hour to, like you said, just, did you know this was going on? But and to just compile all of this that we have inside of us, need to get out, been holding on all day, and to let it out and know that me releasing is a true release.
Yeah, that was powerful.
Just thought about that.
That was powerful, and it made me think a bit about, us working on this important movement together. It makes me think about how, as Black women, we've always been so close to having our own movement, our own space, and for whatever reason, it's always kind of put on the back burner. Okay, we'll hold this for now.
It's not for whatever reason.
Well, you're right.
Because that was the witch's hour. They have to be conspiring something that is so powerful. We're not either going to be able to contain it.
Right.
We're not going to be able to be part of it. We're not going to be able to control it.
Right. So let me rephrase. Black women in this country, we have always been on the precipice of a movement, and then systemically, our issues get forced to the background by either Black men or white women. They both, and trauma, collective trauma as well. But they both have a tendency to use our voices to elevate their needs. And the minute we also put up what our needs are, is, well, we can't walk and chew gum. All right. We got to focus on what's the forefront right now. And right now, it's not about the issues that you have as a Black woman in this country. It's not about that. It's about Blackness in general. And it's not about the issues that the unique challenges you face as an intersectional, Black woman. It's about women's rights in general. And so we've never had that space to say, this isn't about y'all too. This is about me. This is about my experience. This is about what I need. Someone said that, if you want to look at kind of the what was it, the productivity or the success of a country, you have to look at, their most disadvantaged individual and see how they're faring. Because that really does tell you, what that country values and whether or not they're doing all that they say they're doing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we are the most disadvantaged. We've been
disrespected.
What Malcolm said?
Unprotected.
That's the key word. Disrespected.
Yeah. So you talking about the witching hour and talking about, kind of that almost false start to a feminist movement. Because that's what that was. It was a false start. Like, it could have grown. It could have been something. But then you had those that were more male identified than others who said, oh, well, I'm not going to do that no more because they calling y'all witches. And, I don't want no part in that. And then you have all of these other movements in American history that have happened throughout time where women were on the precipice, And then women actually had that movement. White women. And we still haven't had ours. And so TRT is kind of that springboard, I see, for us to really start delving into what are our issues, what are our initiatives that we want to put forth, and how do we go about using that voice that's 20 million strong to get people to actually listen.
Yeah. As you were talking about that, Dom, too, I was just thinking about how deeply affirming it is to be in a space where you don't have to justify your existence. You don't have to explain your trauma to somebody who thinks that they relate to you, but they really don't. Like explaining a Black woman's trauma to a white woman or explaining it to a Black man, having to advocate for yourself within someone else's movement, and just having that space to say, no, you're not crazy. You're not wrong. You're not overreacting. You're not being extra. It is exactly how you said it is. And we all know that's trash. And we're all working to fix it. We're not going to gaslight you into thinking that, you should be happy with the women's rights movement, even though it excluded you, or the Black Lives Matter movement, even though it fails to protect you in so many fundamental ways. And so, I think having that space where we're all kind of starting from that same understanding, no one has to explain or justify, and then you can just move forward, I think is really special about TRT and the space that we're creating.
I'm proud of us all, that everyone's just taking the diligence to put their all into this, because it's not a fly by night. It's something that's truly heart driven, that's truly needed. We know it's needed, and that's what's going out into the atmosphere. It's coming from love. It's coming from a place where we know everyone has been will get to or is going through right now. Last words. But if I could leave last words, I would want the listeners to think of or to just hone into on TRT. It's something you need to be a part of. If you've ever been sitting in your room and you're thinking like, what can I do? Or I need help, or how do I start, or I need someone to talk to. This is not about, signing up for a therapy session. Like, I need a homegirl. I need to find somebody that feels me. This is something that you should be a part of. Right now, me personally, I am down for everything.
Yes.
Black women this year, but yeah, this is something that you want to be a part of at any level.
No,
everything that Chris just said reminds me. It makes me think a lot about the 1920s and the Harlem Renaissance. Think about the folks who were around during that time and didn't believe in the movement that a lot of these Black artists, Black authors, and Black intellectuals were engaging in during the 1920s. The Harlem Renaissance was a defining moment for Black people and for Black history. But think about those who didn't believe in the movement and those who missed out on the changing of what it meant to be a Black American during that time. And then I relate that back to now, like we're in like a changing moment for us as Black Americans, especially as Black American women. This is a defining time for us. So I always think about like the zeitgeist. So the 1920s, the zeitgeist was, change and rebelling against the standard quo. That's what was defining for us back then, going against the grain, creating for ourselves, creating art, creating music, creating literature that changed the way America and the world looked at Black people. And so now we see this like the surgence of Black women just doing amazing things across the country. And I would argue across the globe, we see Black women just really doing these amazing things, and it's changing what it means to be a Black American woman. And for those who don't support these movements or who don't want to get in on it, you're missing out on being a part of history. And I think that with movements like ours, with our VP, and then other Black political leaders, Black women in the arts and in media, they're doing such great things. We're doing such great things. And I don't want to miss being a part of that. And so being a part of this gives me such great joy. Like I find myself talking to my friends and just talking to people and always saying that being in community and hearing from and learning from Black women really does like empower me. Like if I'm feeling down or if I'm feeling just uninspired or if I don't, if I'm just feeling like melancholy, if I get to talk to some of my friends, talk to you guys, or just be in community in some way with Black women, I'm like immediately just energized. Like, right. Like I just, I'm inspired. I want to create stuff. And so I think that to miss out on this would be to just really miss out on a movement. And I'm not just talking about TRT. I mean, being a part of this wave. Yeah. You're missing out on being a part of a movement. So TRT is just one way that you can be a part of this. So I would say, join us, follow us on social media, Roaring 20s _LLC.
What I would say to people who are learning about the Roaring 20s is that, each one of us has a brilliance. And I would encourage you all to find a way to share your brilliance. And I think this is a really unique opportunity to do that. Everybody has knowledge and wisdom and a passion that they can contribute. And, I think there's a lot of people right now, when I kind of look across the landscape in this country and I look at all the different movements, what I see is a lot of people trying to find ways to contribute to the collective, trying to find ways to enhance our culture, trying to find ways to make progress that's meaningful. And, becoming a part of TRT and all of these movements is really a way to do that. And I would encourage people to not be shy to share their gifts with our community and, and then through that, those would be amplified and shared, with more people. And if I could share a quote, and it's by Jaya John. He's one of my favorite authors. He's a Black man, but he really speaks to Black women in a very loving and nurturing way. And, you know, he says, if your soul is on fire to serve in a way that scares you to death, and you don't feel worthy, ready, or able, and the burning will not leave you alone, congratulations, you have your calling. And I think a lot of us are in that place right now. Like, I feel it within myself. I feel it collectively. And I want to encourage people to do something with that. And like, we're offering up the Roaring Twenties as a space for Black women to do that. So that's what I would want to say.
That's a lot to follow, guys. All right. So what I would say is, to all the Black women out there who are listening, first of all, we love you. We appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to listen to my girls' podcast. We hope you subscribe and you continue to listen, because you got some amazing interviews lined up for season 2. But what I would say to you about TRT is that this organization is all about your self-preservation. You spend so much of your time and have spent so much of your life trying to make sure and ensure that everybody is okay. Whether it be your children, your parents, your extended family, your colleagues, people you just happen to pass by on the street. You tend to be the moral compass of this country, Black woman. And now we are at a place where we can no longer continue to give of ourselves without seeking something in return. The Roaring Twenties is your movement. It's your space to look after yourself and your needs first, to put yourself first. Because I find that when you take care of yourself first, everybody else, just off sheer proxy or proximity to you, also benefit. And we've spent a lot of our lives, a lot of years in this country, allowing other people to benefit off of whatever we have, leaving very little for ourselves. This century, we want to try something different. This century, we want to do something different. We want to start with us. It must start with us. And then by proxy, everyone else will benefit. So we encourage you to join TRT. We encourage you to sign up for membership. We encourage you to, get involved. Follow us, like Shaquita said, on our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Find us. And then also make sure you visit the website, theroaring20sllc.com. That's where you go to sign up for membership. And that's where you go to connect.
Listen, you guys, I want to truly thank you for being just having this conversation tonight. Like I said in the beginning, it's much needed. The space is needed. Yeah. This conversation was needed. This inspiration was needed for somebody. Mm-hmm. And all I can do is be grateful that you took the time with me, grateful to be part of this opportunity, grateful to be part of this movement. It's all a movement. Even her pocketbook is a movement. Mm-hmm. The sole reasoning for this is just to get voices out there. I want my daughters to see imagery, but hell, I want them to hear, right, as well. So hear positive words, hear positive women sharing stories, and these stories not being stories of pain and anguish, but stories of inspiration and triumph. So Dr. Dominique, Miss Brandy, Miss Shaquita, I thank you guys so much for just talking with us tonight. I wish the best for you all. I wish the best for all of us. To get to know the movement, to get to know the mission of the Roaring Twenties, I encourage everyone listening tonight to women. Support these women. Follow them on all social media platforms. I want to thank all my guests this evening. It truly warms my heart to be able to vibe with women of like minds. We have so much to offer this world, and it's a damn powerful move when we can offer it all together. Ladies, there are so many more conversations to come. I don't want you to miss one word. So make sure you subscribe to Her Pocketbook podcast on any of your favorite podcast platforms.